All right, good morning, good morning, good morning. Well, for some of you, it may not be morning. And still, hello. I'm Emily Petroff, for those of you who do not know me. And today I am really excited because I have the most fabulous guest to interview. And we've been kind of plotting behind the scenes about this for a moment. So I want to introduce you to my lovely friend Delora, and I do not want to say your last name because I do not want to butcher it. Would you please do it for me?
Yeah, it's Delora Guignion.
Guignion. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you guys, Delora is, oh my God, I can't even wait for us to dive into all of this juicy content that we're going to be talking about today. So a little bit, just a little bit of background for you guys today. The purpose for the interview is to really introduce you guys to what Delora does and some really exciting and cool things that she's got coming up that might be a really good fit for you to jump into to change your life personally, professionally, sexually, and in your business, right? So I want to spend a little bit of time let's talk a little bit about what you are doing currently, and then I kind of want to back up and I want to talk about how did you get into this, because I really am, I think people are interested, like how do you even do what you do now, right? Like there's not a lot of people out there doing what you do, so you're really unique in that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, MindSex is this delicious combination of mindset, and I add, what I say is the jet fuel of sexual energy to it. So I really help people in business. I say my tagline is get laid and paid. And so I really help people jump into the full sense of who they are, run the business the way they want to, make the money they want to, and have a great damn sex life while they're doing it. And one helps the other, believe it or not.
Cool. So you are the MindSex mentor, right? And that's and we're going to talk about this all throughout, but where they can find you, where's the best way for them to kind of check you out?
Well, if you look for me, hashtag MindSex, you'll find me. That's all me. Also mindsexmentor.com. And on Facebook, all social media, it's my name, at Delora Guignion.
Cool. And I will throw, for those of you guys who are like me and you're a little bit like you don't want to go do all that work, I'm going to put all the links in the chat box below so that you can find her very easily. But for those of you who, I have this gal who's like, I always have two screens going at the same time. So for those of you who want to see it now, go. Okay, so let's really dive in. So tell me a little bit, how did you become the MindSex mentor? Like, what was the journey to getting to doing this right now?
Oh my God, it's so fun. And, in retrospect, I can see why every single thing lined up the way it did. So I was always the kid that was saying things that people were thinking, but not wanting to say out loud. And so I was like the black sheep, right? But I was also the one that wanted to know about sex. I wanted to learn about it. I wanted to understand it. My mom was my sex ed teacher in high school. God, like poor woman. And I was so bold, I didn't care. So people would give me all their questions and I would ask all the questions. I would challenge her on what she was saying. She was my favorite teacher, by the way, even though she was strict and we didn't always get along, but she was a really good teacher.
That's cool.
And she would say to me after, what are you doing? Why are you asking all the questions? Give other people a chance. I said, they don't want to talk, Mom. They're asking me. So anyways, throughout school, I studied psychology in my bachelor's. I didn't end up finishing it, by the way, but I studied psychology. I also studied all about sex, history of sex, art of sex, like everything I could get my hands on, and money and business. They were always really intriguing. Fast forward, I always was in a management, type role, coaching type role in my work, always, every job, even McDonald's at 17. And when I went to work in corporate, I loved it at first, and then I got burnt out, and I was like, what the hell? There's got to be something more than this. And I always cared about how people felt in the working place, and I always cared about why they thought certain things. What was their perception? So I would always ask questions, and I would always challenge them on the way they were seeing things, and maybe it's just this and whatever. And so I was always the go-to person to help them get out of situations. So then I did my master's degree in organizational leadership. Part of that program was coaching, and I fell in love. So I started to do it on the side. I found an online business coaching program to help teach me how to do a business, really, through online. And it turned out to be amazing. I booked clients right away, and I was on mindset. at first. And then as I was talking to people, and my friend said to me, you're going to be a sex coach, right? And I'm like, no, I don't want to talk about the mechanics of sex, even though I can. They're like, but you answer all these questions for me. But they didn't just ask me about sex. They used to say, what would Delora do? That was what would Delora do? It didn't matter what the topic was. And when I was in mindset coaching, it was around business. And I loved it. My clients got really good results, but inevitably each one of them would say at some point, I know we're talking about business, but can I just talk to you about my sex life a little bit? Can I just talk to you about my husband? Can I just talk to you about, and like magic, like it was supposed to happen, I started to see the links between money and sex. And then I happened to read this book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And chapter 12, I believe, is called The Mystery of Sex Transmutation. And I was like, well, this is what I'm teaching. This is exactly it. This is what I'm doing, but without knowing it. And then 3 women in Montreal at a conference witnessed me take a man through a situation where he would have erectile dysfunction with his lover, and he was frustrated. He wanted to be more dominant in the bedroom, but as soon as he did, he lost his erection. So I knew there was a connection there, and he wasn't very dominant in his business either. That was something he was working on. And it was an overbearing mom, and he's in his 50s. She still ran his life. And as soon as I pointed that out to he was like, it was like the world opened up to him, right? And the women there first were uncomfortable, but when they saw he wasn't, they're like, oh my God, like you have to do this. I'm like, this is what I do all the time. And one of the women there got a download, and she said, it's not mindset, it's MindSex. And that's how it was born.
I love that.
I know.
I've known you for a couple of years, and I did not know that story. Oh my God. I just got goosebumps. That's
I know.
So cool.
It really was. And it was a day that, we all got something out of that day. But that particular moment, I was like, well, this is, this was meant to happen this way. And he emailed me 2 weeks later, and he's like, girl, you just gave me the best sex. She's so happy. He was starting to run his business with more dominance, the same thing. It was amazing.
So cool. And it's so interesting, right? So I'm so glad that you brought up Napoleon Hill, because I love the posts that you put. If you guys have not checked her out on social media, go check it out, because you're going to get a ton of value just from reading the content. Like it's brilliant, and it's juicy, and it's all the things that all of us, I feel like, if we're honest, really think, and or having the conversations in our head, or having the conversations with our best girlfriends or our bros, whatever the guys call themselves nowadays. But we don't ever say it out loud, right? You don't talk about it to people, right? It's such this hush hush. And so I love, you talk about 2 things that I really want to hear more from you about. You talk about the shame and the blame, the guilt that comes around sex and money. And so I want you to dive into that a little bit. And then I wanted to also talk about some of the things with the Napoleon Hill, with chapter 12, right? With that, So either one of those, start somewhere. It doesn't matter to me where, but those 2 things I really want to know a little bit more about.
For sure. Well, shame and guilt is a good place to start. So money and sex are the 2 most desired things in the world. The top 3 need we now have after water and air is money. It used to be food and shelter. Food and shelter cannot happen these days without money. You have to have money in order to have it. It's just the way our society is built. So you can reject what I'm saying here and hate that I made it number 3 top need, but it's true. Nobody grows their own food. Nobody's going out and cutting down their own wood. It just doesn't happen. So because of that, it's so important that we really get around our money stories around these things. But on the other hand, sex energy is your most powerful physical energy. It's also the same energy that activates your charisma. So people trust you, they want to talk to you, they're lured into you, and your creative energy. So if you need to come up with a new idea for your business, for example, and you've pushed and repressed your sexual energy for years because in the bedroom you were told you were slutty once, or you had a bad experience, or whatever it is, that shame and guilt is actually controlling your business. And people don't realize that link is there. But the same thing with charisma. If you need to, do a video like this, if you need to do an interview and you're like, yes, it's really important that we talk about that, nobody, everybody's gonna be like, can I tune out of this interview now. You need charisma. And it can be like, even if you're not in a business, everything needs charisma. If you go to the grocery store and you want the bag boy to go in the back and get the can of soup that's not on the shelf, you got to entice him to do it. Now you can make him do it because it's his job, but
Yeah.
Anyway, it's in everything we do. And so because the two most desired things and the two most shame things, it's really important that we unlock and unleash some of the power that's tied up and repressed inside of us. We all have stories. When we're growing up, money and sex were talked about in the same way, hush hush tones, right? We weren't allowed to talk about budgets. We didn't talk about how much our parents made. Our parents would have ideas like the lazy louse that didn't pay his bills next door or didn't have a job or he was on welfare or whatever. Like there was a label for them. The really rich people were labeled certain things. Yeah, that's okay. They were labeled certain things, right? The really rich people were labeled, there's your pussy. Hi, pussy, pussy. Yeah, they were labeled, lucky or cheats or scoundrels because they had that much money. Nobody has that much money, right? Without something being wrong. And the same thing in sex. If you don't have sex, you're a prude, you're a bitch, you're uptight. If you have too much sex, you're slutty, you're Don Juan, like everything, right? And so we really need to stop being dictated by those stories that we were told. The truth is, you can have as much money as you want. There's no shame around it. And you can make it the way you want to. There's no shame around it. And same as sex. You can have as much sex as you want, the way you want to have it. There needs to be no shame around it. I'm not dictating how that's going to be for you, but there may be certain things that you've been told you can't do. I worked with a woman who, she was a visual artist. So she would do branding and that kind of thing online, but she also did websites and design, graphic design, beautiful work. But when I first started working with her, she was like, I feel bored with my business and I don't understand what's going on. And I used to love it and I don't love it anymore. And I said, well, when did you stop loving it? And she goes, well, when my husband and I moved in together, I just went into wife mode. And I said, okay, what does wife mode look for you? And she's like, well, I stopped wearing dresses and I stopped being too sexy. And I'm like, okay, so how does that make you feel? She goes, oh, I hate it, actually, if I'm honest. But she didn't realize she stopped having sex with her husband, but her creativity went down as soon as she stepped out of being her sexual self into the woman that had to be the good wife. And her husband didn't ask her to do this. This was just the pattern that was in her subconscious this whole time. And so when we uncovered this for her, she was actually an exotic dancer in the past. Her husband met her there, had no shame around it. Yeah. He didn't mind. He loved it. It turned her on. It turned him on. They decided together she was going to stop. He didn't ask her to stop. Again, no shame around it. He just fell in love with her. But as soon as she got married, or the ring actually was when she got engaged, she stopped being that sexual person and being open to different things. She dressed differently, everything. Anyway, that day, she immediately bought 3 dresses online. She had them delivered. She went into the next room. She wrote her husband, in her words, and she had all these ideas for her business, like unleashed. She finished 3 projects that had been overdue and like stale in her inbox, like kind of thing. And she emailed me. She goes, now he's like my creative block. Every time I get a creative block, I jump on him. He's satisfied. I feel sexy as fuck. My work is amazing. I'm getting even more clients. That's all it was. The story.
So wonderful, right? Yeah. Like, oh my God, what a gift that is. So cool. I feel like for me, I grew up in this, with a lot of those stories, right? That weren't necessarily told to me, right? So it wasn't like we had these conversations necessarily. It was just like the unwritten rules, right? Or the things that we don't talk about. And so when you talked about your mom being your sex ed teacher, I love that story because I feel like what I hear from a lot of people is that it was more of the shame and guilt thing, right, around sex and these like, I don't know, old paradigms. And I didn't know that they were old at the time, but that I had when I came into my marriage and, like, even after I got divorced, I still had a lot of that stuff going on. And so, gosh, this is just super fascinating. So I hope you guys are totally loving this. Okay, so now let's dive in a little bit to what happened when you kind of got this like download about like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm teaching. Napoleon Hill's chapter 12. Like, tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's actually chapter 11, I just realized. But anyways, it doesn't matter. So what happened was, because it was so funny. So I'm very intuitive and an empath. I wouldn't say psychic necessarily, because I don't predict the future necessarily, but I get messages for people all along. If I connect with you energetically, I do. It took me a while to actually admit that, by the way, but not that I had, I always believed in them, but for me to be, what are you talking about? But when I coach somebody, what happens is, as I'm talking, it's just a conversation like we're having now, there will be something that's said that lights up a connection that I need to go refer to in their childhood. And, you know, there was one woman that I worked with, she had wanted to do speaking gigs, and she had had 7 opportunities before we started working together. She lived in Toronto, and each one, she ended up having, one time she had a flat tire. She had the wrong PowerPoint, the wrong address. She got laryngitis. And I said, okay, so when did that, you know, did you do any of the speaking gigs? None of the speaking gigs she ended up doing out of 7. There was always something that happened. And I said, when was the first time, this is like the light bulb moment that occurs for me. Like I just pictured her in a room with a bunch of people. And I said, when was the first time that you spoke out in public and it didn't go so well? And she's like, well, I'll have to think about that. And she said, well, actually, when I was 13 in math class, and she was in Toronto, so it was a really big classroom. Toronto's a big city here in Canada. And it was auditorium style. She was sitting beside a boy she had a crush on. She didn't have a good relationship with her mom. His mom happened to be the teacher, and he was her crush. She answered a question out loud and got it wrong. He laughed, the class laughed, the teacher laughed. So the mother figure, the power authority figure, her crush, and her peers all laughed at her. So her subconscious internalized that as deep humiliation. And because we don't have saber-toothed tigers chasing us, that is the equivalent to a saber-toothed tiger. So it stored it inside her body as, you will never speak in public because you will get it wrong and you will be laughed at. It was such a horrible experience for her. She didn't remember it until we talked about it. And she's like, holy shit, that's what happened. And I said, well, when did your laryngitis clear up? She said, like an hour after I was supposed to speak. And I said, laryngitis is never that short. Real laryngitis is not that, you know? And she's like, you're so right. After that, she was able to speak. Now, the same thing was happening when she was posting online. She would take hours to write a post, agonize over it. She was a holistic nutritionist. She knew her stuff. Like, she was so studied because she never wanted to be wrong. I said, put it out there. It doesn't, even if there are a couple of errors, it doesn't matter. But she had such a fear of being wrong in public because of that experience. And that's what happened. So for me, it started to happen just kind of naturally as I talked to people. And I knew that I was always good at listening to people and asking questions and stuff. But really, when I started in the coaching and the light bulb moments, just the connections between money and sex just light up for me like a Christmas tree. So, you know, and I'll get these images or I'll get these feelings for people. I call them feelings more than images. And, you know, it depends on how open the other person is, how deep we go. But in every case, like, I've worked with people that were formerly very religious and who now are not religious at all, renounced it completely. But then they're like, well, actually, I really crave that spirituality again. And just because of the shame and guilt that was around it. Yeah, so it just happens naturally. And it's, I mean, every morning I get up and I'm like, thank you, God, for this purpose. Like, money and sex, are you kidding?
Absolutely. Oh my God, I love that so much. And don't you feel like, or maybe it's not a feeling, it's a knowing, that exists in all of us. It's just
Yes.
our willingness to really like listen and to trust, right? Because for me, I know that I was not, for a large chunk of my life, I was not listening to that, right? And so I've never heard another coach describe for me, it's like a download. I've never heard them describe it the way that you describe it. And it is exactly the same way for me. I had a client yesterday that I was working with, and it was like, I heard her say something, and then I was like, wait, we got to go back to here.
Yeah.
And it, oh God, it just feels so good to do that. And I would not have been able to do that without working with someone like you to be able to help me like figure that out. Right. I mean, we need the support of other people. And of course I'm biased because I'm a coach and I believe so much in the coaching space because it helped me so much. And I watch it transform the lives of my clients. I mean, what you're talking about that you're doing with people and for people, it is literally life changing. I mean, it totally transforms, and it doesn't have to be this like it's light bulbs, right? It's like, I mean, things that just can shift on a dime, right?
Absolutely. And that, that's what I find really powerful. I mean, I have goosebumps right now just talking about it. Coaching is so powerful. And I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in coaching, and I would do it all over again. Some of it was good, some of it wasn't, but it doesn't matter. It was all an experience. But when you're able to, the difference between coaching and therapy, everybody needs both at some point, I'm sure. Therapy really has its place and it's important. But what I love about coaching is that it allows you to see things in an empowering way. And it allows you to let go of these suitcases and these baggages that we've been carrying. The other thing is that most of the people that I work with, they've always known about this part or that part of them. And it was stripped away, or it was shamed into submission, or it was, they were oversensitized around it, right? So the class clown, for example, is someone that eventually you get bored. You're like, oh, fuck, you're annoying. That's someone who doesn't own their sex energy. They found out that they can use their sex energy to draw in the class, but then they crave it so much, they don't know when to switch it off. So they're the inappropriate end of it, right? But then there's also the ones that are the women that I work with that are very uptight and don't orgasm and don't admit that they have sexual needs, and they're very much in their masculine energy and they can't let go of control, but they are white knuckling it and just desperate to be able to say, can I just download some of this? Can somebody take it off my shoulders? But they set up the situation where every time they try to do it, it goes wrong. So it reinforces that they have to stay in control. And orgasm is, usually the women that come to me that are really uptight, I guarantee that they're not having orgasms. And because that is the ultimate loss of control, right? It's the ultimate surrender of that. And what I think is also really beautiful and powerful is when I can get a woman and a man into their sex energy, but owning it, like the mystery of sex transmutation, it allows you to open up. He talks about it as your higher genius in here. The sixth sense, the intuition, the download, if you're a scientist, those bright ideas, whatever way I study all of the things that I study from every angle, because there's not somebody that's gonna like, if you're coming to me and you're an atheist, that's okay. I have ways to talk to you about it. But the fact that it allows people to access their higher genius, like the ideas, like the Elon Musk of the world. One of his actually is really interesting about Elon Musk. He's been married a couple of times and had some high profile relationships, but his last relationship that I've known about, he did a Rolling Stones interview and talks about Tesla 2, I think it was. The launch of Tesla 2 was almost derailed because he just went through the breakup with his girlfriend and couldn't rally. He needs that relationship. So what he's doing is he's a little bit out of control of his sex energy. He's aware that he feeds on it and he needs it in order to do well and come up with the ideas that he comes up with. But when it's not there, he doesn't know how to deal with it. And so for him, he has to have a woman, a muse, a woman, whatever, helping him through it. And that can be debilitating because relationships don't always last,
Right, absolutely.
So it's this beautiful dynamic.
I love that you're talking about that, because I think that's something that really is so unique, at least from my perspective, is that the way you're talking about the sex energy, it's about the energy that I'm bringing to the table, regardless of if I'm in a relationship right now or not, right? It doesn't depend on that.
No, it doesn't. And it doesn't even depend on sex. you know, all of my clients are not these sex fiends that can't stop having sex.
Right.
Some of them have been to that extreme, but it's not about that. It's about allowing yourself to have pleasure, permission to go after your desires, you know, any way you want. And most of us who have these gifts or have these different ideas and who are not using them have been ashamed all their life for it, or told you're too much. Like for me, the big thing is you're too much. You know, you're too much. You know, you say too much. You're whatever. All of those things that I was said turned out to be actually my gifts. The fact that I am all of those things is actually a really fucking good thing, you know. And so to be able to help people realize that, you know, the guy who was never enough for his parents, and he would lose his erection after the first initial hit on a woman. Like, you know, when he would, if he was dating, was fine, he was erect all the time, but as soon as he got a little serious with the woman, because then he would go into his more feminine energy, slip out of his masculine, and need her to want and to think he's okay, because he never got that from his parents.
Yeah.
To see a man take that and that same energy, and then his business would lose power at the same time, right? He couldn't have both going at the same time. To help him see that he can keep his dick hard and run his business really powerfully with a message that really cuts through the bullshit that you hear out there. I mean, come on, there's nothing more delicious than that.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, his message after his weekend was like, oh my God, I just had the best sex ever. And even when I thought I was going to go soft, I just changed positions. I was fine. Like, oh, I can't. I mean,
yeah, wow.
it's beautiful. I just love it.
Absolutely. So wonderful. And so what a gift, like as a coach, right? To hear what your client, you know, to get that feedback and to know that, like, God, what a huge difference. Like we were just talking about before we started recording, being the messenger, right? You're the vehicle. You're the, like, what a gift it is to be able to, it's like, I always tell them, like, it's not me, right? I'm just giving you the information that I'm getting, right? And you get to do the work or not, right? Some people don't do it.
Exactly.
People aren't willing. So yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so you've given us some really, really good stuff. So tell me a little bit. You have this group that is starting in just a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, because I'm super curious to know, like, there are opportunities to work with you one-on-one. There are only a couple, because you don't have a lot of time to spend with loads and boatloads of people. So the one thing that I love that you're creating is this group. So it's a little bit more affordable than working with you one-on-one. And it's a little bit of a different experience, but you can get the same kind of results. So will you start talking about the MindSex mastermind, right? Is that what is?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly it. Yeah. So I've hesitated doing group programs for a while because I love the juiciness of talking to my clients one-on-one, the intimacy that's included, and the results I get them. But I also know that there's some benefit to being in a situation where you can share and feed off other people that are going through similar situations without the shame and guilt that can be attached to it. And to be also, to build that community. But, you know, not everybody can afford to work with me one-on-one, but they still need this support. They still need this help. And as much as I give away free content all the time, you know, I have a free group, I'll post everything. People can ask me questions at any time. I will post videos to help them. It's not necessarily enough. It'll give you a Band-Aid, but it's never going to heal the wound, or it's never going to give you the true momentum to really get going so that you can make, you know, 50,000 a month if you want. You know, some people, you know, I have one woman that started with me at 2,000 a month consistently. That's all she wanted to do. And I knew that she was going on bigger bucks. And now I think she makes easily 80,000 a month, you know, without real effort. Yeah. And she was someone whose sex life was really good. So we just took what was going well in her sex life and transferred it over to the other areas. So that can also be the case. But the mastermind, what I'm doing is I'm taking the same exercises that I would use with my one-on-one clients. There's going to be bi-weekly exercises to do with templates and everything else that needs to be filled out. The results need to be posted in the group or to me personally if it's too personal. And then I'll help work through the next step of whatever that exercise is. They all build one on top of the other. And then the alternating week is going to be group calls. And again, questions can be asked to me anonymously, and then the group calls will be recording my answers to it. And then we can have some dialogue throughout the call if we need to. And then it also includes one-on-one calls with me. There's 3 private, throughout the 6 months, there's going to be 3 private one-on-one calls with me, and they can be used all right away or staggered throughout, however people want to do it. And in all cases, as soon as I connect with someone energetically, in fact, I can even do it with people that I don't do it because you can't do it without permission, but I can be in a restaurant. My joke is I can tell how everyone's sex life is just by looking at them or observing them for a minute. I was recently at a dinner with 4 women and I did that exact thing. And they're like, oh, well, then you have to read me. You have to read me. And I got them all right. And they were like flabbergasted, tears, like revelations. And it was just, I call it a party trick, but it can be pretty powerful. So I can do the same thing in the mastermind. You're not going to be just left out with a bunch of exercises with no connection. I will be able to connect with you.
And those one-on-one calls are more than, I mean, those 3 one-on-one calls alone, without any of the other things, are more valuable than the entire program as a whole in terms of dollars, right? I mean, like, that's a big deal that you threw those in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because one-on-one, that is exactly it. Because my clients get me one-on-one. And the other thing that my clients get one-on-one is they also can message me at any time. And my office hours are, if I'm available, I answer. So sometimes it's 2 a.m. if I'm up or whatever. But they get more interaction. But what I've done is I'm also including the free Facebook group so that even though it won't be to me personally every time, there will be a place to post messages and I will interact on a daily basis with everyone there. So if you have 1,000 questions, you can post 1,000 questions and I will interact with each one of them. That's why I'm purposely keeping the group also more intimate and small. And I will not work with people I don't think I can help. So it's not just going to be just anyone let in. I will be looking at who is joining. Most of the people that are in my sphere, they're going to get pretty comfortable with it anyway, but there's going to be no shame and guilt around any of this. And if there is, I'm going to be able to cut through it.
Yeah. I have to say, I really value the one-on-one coaching experience, right? Like, I've gotten so much from one-on-one coaching, but I will tell you that I think I've gotten as much value, if not more, in other ways from a mastermind type group. Like, I've been in a lot of mastermind groups, and the thing that I love about them so much is that you don't get in one-on-one coaching is the community of people who are doing the same things that you're doing, or they're up against the same things that you're up against, or they want to accomplish the same things that you want to accomplish. There's so much value in that connection with other people who are going through or at the same space and place in their life or in their business as I am. Like, oh my God. So I think that as much as I will root on one-on-one coaching and the value in that, there is so much value in a community of like-minded people, right? I mean, it's just so lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be no accident who ends up in the group, right? People who sign up for the mastermind are meant to be there to interact with each other in a certain way. And there could be someone that asks a question that you didn't even realize you needed the answer to. That's what happened with me in any mastermind that I've been in. I'm like, oh, actually, that's a really great question. I hadn't even thought about that. And the answers, even though they might not directly be to you, they could have you think about something in another way. And, it's 6 months, but I know that in that time, in fact, I throw in a guaranteed, if you do the work, if you show up, if you're accountable, and you're not getting the results you want, I'll refund the difference of the time that you've spent. Because I know I've never had a client need a refund ever. I guarantee my work because I know that this work is going to get at what needs to be there. Even the recorded videos and the exercises that I do, they're exercises that have worked over and over and over and over again with my clients. And they're so powerful because what they do is they trick your subconscious in giving you the secrets that it's hiding for you. The reasons why you won't change and really take the steps that you need to are going to come out in these exercises, because I do it in a way that your subconscious is just answering questions. It doesn't know it's giving you the secrets, right?
Yeah,
so it's sneaky, but it works.
I love I think that is one of the things that I love about you so much. There's a lot of, in the coaching space, I hear a lot of coaches, like they're afraid to, I don't know if they're afraid to give a guarantee, but I don't hear a lot of that, right? And I have the same, maybe that's another reason why we're so synergistic in so many ways, is I love that you give the guarantee. I do the same exact thing because I am a badass and I am confident in my work.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to do the push-ups, you're going to see the results, right? So it's like, I'm not afraid to tell someone, like, you're going to get your ROI. Like, here's the guarantee that I'm telling you what you're going to get, right? So I love that you do that. And I think it helps people feel, comfortable too, because when they don't know me or they don't know you, it can be a little bit like, if you have some fear-based responses to things, it can be a little bit scary, right?
Yeah.
But just to trust and to know that you have nothing to lose, right? Like,
No.
yeah, so that's great.
Absolutely. And, sometimes guarantees can be dangerous as a business owner. I'm going to put in my heart and soul is going to go into this mastermind or I wouldn't launch it. That's the thing. That's why it's, I've been in business 4 years and I've only done one group program because I do not take things lightly and I want people to get results. So, if I'm going to put all my heart and soul into it and someone's not going to do the work, well, sorry about the guarantee. But if you're going to show up and I can't break through with you, either I'm going to give you more, I'm going to offer you more one-on-one calls, or I'm going to refund your money and recommend someone that may be able to help you if it's
Absolutely.
not. Because I don't want you wasting your money either. I don't want to feed any kind of negative mindset around money that you have. And I want you to get results, however that's going to happen. So, that is definitely going to happen.
Here's the other thing that I know. If you're watching this, there was a reason. Right?
Yes.
Purpose. It was put in front of you for a reason. Like, I don't get people. That's the other thing. Like, I never, ever attract somebody who isn't willing to do the work, which is the other reason why I've also never had to give a refund, right? So it's like
Exactly.
the power of the laws of attraction, right, is so powerful in recognizing. So recognize, people, that if you're watching this, something about your vibration is saying, like, this could be the thing that you need to go to the next level, right? On so many levels. Go to the next level on so many levels.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's recap it. So tell me again what I get for joining the mastermind.
So I'm going to look at my notes just to be sure because it's so juicy. So 6 months.
Okay.
It's a 6-month program.
Okay.
You get 12 biweekly MindSex teachings.
Okay.
12 biweekly mastermind group calls,
Okay.
3 45-minute one-on-one calls,
Okay.
and the private Facebook group for ongoing support, and then the guarantee, of course, that, as we're going along, if you're not getting the results you want, I'll give you the money.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. And then when does all this start? Like, they need to take some action right now because we're getting close, right?
Yes, absolutely. So January 13th is when it starts, 2020. I don't believe in unlucky numbers. So January 13th is when we're starting because I really want you to start the year fresh. Fuck these, New Year's resolutions going to waste. Let's actually get you some results. In all but 2 cases, my clients have doubled their monthly income by working with me. And the 2 cases, one she did afterwards. We had a lot more work to do before she got to that point. And the second one wasn't looking to do that. She just wanted to be able to dance. And that's exactly what she went and did. She wasn't looking to make more money. She was a 7-year-old woman that all she wanted to do was to live her life and go dance. And that's what she did that very day, actually. So that's what you get. And, it is such a wonderful thing. But I'm also, if you sign up before January 1st, I'm throwing in 2 additional 45-minute one-on-one calls, which you can use again at any point.
Oh my gosh, that is fantastic. Okay, so what else? What else do we need to know, my dear? Anything else that you can think of that, I feel like we have really uncovered and dug into a ton of stuff today. Anything else that you want to mention or make sure that people know?
Well, mindset, honestly, is the most essential thing to running a business, period, point. It doesn't matter. And I don't say it just because that's what I do. If I have myself invested in my mindset, and if I wasn't, we're also working on my mindset while I invested in my business. The investments in my business went stale, didn't work, didn't doesn't matter. So you can have all the branding, all the copy, all the whatever. If your copy is this tight, uptight little girl like this talking, and that's what it's, you know, this stuffy woman, people aren't going to be attracted to that because that's not the real you. But if you need to come undone a little bit, you know, I have one woman that she admitted finally that she was a witch, and she makes so much money now, and she's doing like an intuitive business coach that also can do potions and everything else, but she owned the fuck out of it. And now she's like this turned on, delicious woman that everybody needs. Right. But that is because, you know, you help unleash the real you. So please, even if you don't work with me, get on mindset, do what you need to do to find the right mindset coach program. Look at all the books behind me. You have to consistently work on your mindset. If you don't, you're just going to fall back into your patterns. It's like the temperature gauge that I have on my wall over there. It's set for, in Canada, 22. I don't know what that is in everywhere else. But once it gets 23, if it's too hot in here, the temperature cuts out. If it goes too cold, the temperature will get up. Well, that's the same thing in your, if you don't work on your mindset, you will always stay in your comfort zone. You will always go back to what's regulated. You might have a good month of $10,000, and the next 3 months you make nothing because you've never made that much money and you can't do it consistently. So if you want to get off the roller coaster, mindset is key. If you want to do it and do it so that you're lighting up your life, MindSex is key.
Hands down, 1000%. I cannot like, amen, can I get a hallelujah more than that? Because I 1000%. That truly is what I teach. Yes, I give strategy, and yes, I help people with putting and implementing systems in their business and, you know, culture work. And if your head is not in the right place, oofty, none of that other stuff matters a damn bit, right?
Exactly. That's what makes you so powerful, though, because you get that and you give them both, right? You give them strategy and mindset, which is amazing.
Okay, my love. Well, I am just super grateful for you taking time today to be able to share a little bit of just I feel like we just barely scratched the surface of what you do, and yet we got so much today. So I want you guys to, if you have questions for Miss Delora, please reach out to her, send her a private message, you know, hop into, she has a Facebook group that you can hop into as well, and we'll put the link to that here. But anything and everything MindSex, this is your girl. So and it's you got a limited time to hop into this mastermind that she's doing, and doesn't do this very often. So I wanted to make sure that we offered it to my group as well, so that you guys have an opportunity to hop into it if this is something that really resonates with you, and if it's in front of you, I'm sure that it does.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I think with that, we're going to sign off. Have an amazing day, you guys. I just love you so much. Thank you for taking time out of your day to sit with us, and hopefully you grabbed a cup of coffee and snuggled up and listened the whole thing, because there was so much good stuff here. So, okay, I think that's it. Everybody have an amazing day today, and I'll talk to you guys all soon. Bye-bye.